A large object with a turquoise hue plummeted out of the sky earlier this summer and plowed into the earth south of Las Vegas, somewhere near Needles, California.
Yeah, eyewitnesses say this was no meteorite, especially since a bunch of helicopters came looking for it and then hauled it away.
I-Team Chief Investigator George Knapp has been talking to the people who saw this thing, and he's here now with the story.
Got a fun little mystery on our hands here. The object was seen in the early morning hours of May 14th. It appeared to crash into the ground just west of the Colorado River, and that's when things got interesting for residents of that area. Somewhere in this rough terrain, just west of the Colorado River and south of Needles, is a point of impact, maybe some burn marks, created by something that fell from the sky. Frank Costigan saw it because he got up at 3 in the morning to let his cat out. A fiery object that flashed across the sky, but it wasn't a meteor, he says.
Up in the sky, it's just bright. It was bright enough that it illuminated the ground.
For 7 years, Costigan worked as the chief of airport security at LAX. He says the mystery object flew out of the northeast heading southwest, traveling very fast. But at one point it slowed down, then sped up again.
And it went behind the hill, and I waited to see if I could hear it crash, because as big as it was bound to make noise.
But he didn't hear a crash.
I was coming into work.
Hours later, David Hayes, the owner of K-Talks Radio in Needles, was coming to work when he spotted an odd formation of dark vehicles driving off the highway. He drew a picture of the lead vehicle, a large truck with a dome on top and a black structure that reminded him of a stealth fighter.
It seemed like it was some kind of surveillance vehicle, but four-wheel drive, and it had government plates, the U.S. government plates on it. And behind it was a couple of vans that were, they looked like support vehicles.
The men inside had military bearings, Hayes said, but weren't in uniform. He made eye contact with one of the drivers, and the guy followed him. Later in the day, one of the vehicles was parked outside his station, seemingly conducting a surveillance of the place.
You see these guys, and they're staring you down. It's sort of a Men in Black sort of a feel to it.
Absolutely. Very serious, serious as a heart attack.
I went up to the airport.
Coincidentally, Costigan, the ex-cop, works on investigations for Hayes. When he came into the radio station, he told Hayes about the thing he'd seen in the sky, and Hayes told him about the Men in Black. Then they got another piece of the puzzle, a call from a man who lives in a houseboat on the river, who said he saw the fiery object, that it had crashed about 100 yards west of the river, that it landed with a thump. Hayes says he's known the witness for years by the name Bob on the River. Bob thought a plane had crashed and tried to call 911, but his cell wouldn't work, so he moved his boat out into the river and then heard the helicopters. In an interview with journalist Linda Howe, Bob says he saw at least 5 helicopters flying in formation, including a large sky crane. The crane picked up the oval-shaped object, still glowing, and flew away, heading in the direction of Las Vegas. One odd detail, the choppers arrived only 17 minutes after the object crashed. Bob described it to Hayes.
About the size of he said it was like the size of a semi-trailer, about like a oblong shaped thing, and like a tank, something like that.
There's got to be something, some evidence on the ground.
Out of the blue, the people at the station got a call from a friend in Laughlin who said the Laughlin airport had been inundated on the night of the crash with so-called Janet planes. That's the airline that flies workers to top-secret Area 51. Costigan says the airport could not confirm this because no one's on duty after 6 p.m. at night, not even in the tower. The black vehicles have left Needles. Bob, the houseboat guy, can't be found either.
The fact that there were people here the next day, almost like a team, it seemed like, that they were doing either some sort of cleanup or whatever. The point is that something definitely happened.
We phoned nearly every agency we could think of to see if they had received any report or knew anything, and not surprisingly, none of them seem to know anything. They're aware of it, they just don't have any specific information. Here's the list of those we called. Police agencies in 3 states. We called the Laughlin Airport, the National Weather Service, the FAA, several military bases, including Nellis. A military watchdog group found a public record showing there was at least 1 Army helicopter in that area at the time. That that helicopter, oddly enough, is listed as being attached to a U.S. base in Europe. So, you know, the question is, what the heck's it doing here? We're following Freedom of Information requests, and we're going to report back when we get some responses. We have some links on our website where you can learn more about this case, plus an oldie but goodie, a video report we aired about 8 years ago about another weird crash here in Nevada. We're just getting started on this thing. We've got some good links. I think we're going to get some answers on this thing, and we'll come back with more.
Yeah.
Be intriguing.
Thank you, George.
Thanks, George. Well, floodwaters are doing some pretty major damage.